God says, "My child, there are things happening behind the scenes that you cannot see yet. There are thoughts being carried in someone's heart that have not been spoken. There are memories returning to someone who thought they had finally moved on. And there is a reason this message found you today. Last night, while you were sleeping, resting, working, or simply living your normal life, someone may have quietly searched for you. They did not announce it. They did not send you a message. They did not leave a clear sign. They simply opened your profile. They looked at your picture. They looked at your posts. They may have scrolled through your older memories. And for a moment, they forgot everything they had told themselves about you. They forgot the distance. They forgot the silence. They forgot the pride. They forgot the arguments. They forgot the reasons they had created to stay away. Because seeing you again did something they were not prepared for. It brought back a feeling. A feeling they thought was gone. A feeling they had tried to hide. A feeling they may have been running from for a very long time. And that feeling was you. Maybe you have been wondering why this person suddenly came into your thoughts again. Maybe their name appeared in your mind for no obvious reason. Maybe you remembered an old conversation. Maybe you dreamed about them. Maybe you felt an unusual emotional pull. Do not immediately assume that every feeling is a supernatural sign. Sometimes your heart simply remembers what your mind has tried to forget. But sometimes, moments like these can also become opportunities to understand what you truly want. And that is what matters most. Because this message is not here to tell you to chase someone. It is here to remind you that your worth does not depend on whether someone is watching your profile. Your worth existed before they noticed you. Your worth remained when they ignored you. And your worth remains whether they return or never come back. But there is something interesting about what may have happened last night. Your soulmate may have expected to find the old version of you. The version who waited. The version who checked their profile. The version who wondered why they were silent. The version who wanted answers. Instead, they may have found someone different. They may have found someone who had changed. Someone who looked calmer. Someone who seemed stronger. Someone who was no longer trying to prove anything. And that can be shocking. Because when someone believes you will always remain emotionally available, they become comfortable with your presence. They think they can return whenever they want. They think you will always be waiting. They think your feelings will remain exactly the same. But time changes people. Pain changes people. Healing changes people. And sometimes distance changes people the most. Your soulmate may have opened your profile thinking they would feel nothing. Instead, they felt something immediately. Maybe it was nostalgia. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was regret. Maybe it was jealousy. Maybe it was simply the sudden realization that you were no longer standing where they left you. You had moved forward. And that realization can hurt. God says, "My child, never be afraid of the growth that happened because of the pain you survived." Think about everything you have been through. There may have been nights when you questioned yourself. There may have been moments when you wondered whether you were enough. You may have wondered why someone could say they cared and then become distant. You may have checked your phone again and again. You may have hoped for a message that never came. You may have created explanations for their silence because accepting the truth felt too painful. But look at you now. You are still here. You survived those nights. You survived the unanswered questions. You survived the disappointment. And maybe without even realizing it, you became stronger. Your soulmate may be seeing that strength now. They may be noticing something that you do not even notice about yourself. You are no longer desperate for their attention. You are no longer trying to convince them. You are no longer running after someone who is running away. And that difference can completely change the way someone sees you. Maybe they looked at your profile and asked themselves a question they had avoided for months. What if I actually lost them? That question is powerful. Because sometimes people do not understand the value of a person while that person is standing right in front of them. They understand it when the person becomes distant. They understand it when the messages stop. They understand it when the attention disappears. They understand it when someone finally learns to live without them. And maybe that is what happened last night. Your soulmate may have realized that your life did not stop because they left. You continued. You grew. You smiled. You changed. You became stronger. And perhaps they were not prepared to see that. They may have expected sadness. Instead, they found peace. They may have expected you to still be waiting. Instead, they found someone moving forward. They may have expected you to look broken. Instead, they found someone rebuilding themselves. And suddenly, their own emotions became difficult to ignore. They may have started thinking about the past. The first conversation. The first laugh. The first moment they realized they were attracted to you. The first time they felt comfortable with you. The little things you did. The way you remembered details. The way you cared. The way you listened. The way you made them feel understood. Those little memories can become very powerful when someone is alone. Especially at night. Because nighttime removes distractions. During the day, someone can stay busy. They can work. They can talk to friends. They can watch videos. They can go outside. They can pretend everything is fine. But at night, when everything becomes quiet, the heart becomes louder. And maybe last night, your soulmate heard their own heart. Maybe they realized they still miss you. Maybe they realized they never completely let you go. Maybe they realized that the connection meant more than they admitted. Or maybe they simply realized that they still have questions. Whatever the reason, something brought them to your profile. And what they found may have changed the way they think about you. But here is where you need to be careful. Do not turn this message into an excuse to obsess over their actions. Do not spend the entire night checking whether they viewed something. Do not create an imaginary story around every online activity. Do not let curiosity steal your peace. If someone truly wants to be in your life, eventually they need to communicate. A profile visit is not a relationship. A view is not a commitment. A like is not an apology. A message is not automatically proof of change. Actions over time are what matter. God says, "My child, do not measure love by signs alone. Measure it by consistency, honesty, respect, and action." That is important. Because sometimes we become so desperate for a sign that we turn every small thing into a promise. You deserve better than that. You deserve clarity. You deserve someone who can say what they feel. You deserve someone who does not make you guess. You deserve someone who can communicate even when the conversation is difficult. And perhaps your soulmate is beginning to understand that. Maybe they looked at your profile last night and realized that if they want another chance, they cannot return as the same person. They cannot come back with the same behavior. They cannot disappear whenever they become uncomfortable. They cannot give you mixed signals. They cannot expect you to forget everything simply because they suddenly miss you. If they truly want you, they must be willing to grow. And maybe that is the biggest change happening behind the scenes. Not that they are suddenly coming back, but that they are finally beginning to understand what coming back would require. They may be asking themselves, how do I approach them? What do I even say? Will they forgive me? Do they still care? Have they moved on? Is there someone else? What if they reject me? That last question can be especially powerful. Because your soulmate may be afraid that the person they once had access to is no longer available. And that fear may be forcing them to confront their own decisions. Maybe they remember a time when you would have responded immediately. Now they are not sure. Maybe they remember when you always started the conversation. Now you are silent. Maybe they remember when you constantly tried to fix things. Now you have learned to let people take responsibility for their own actions. That is growth. And growth changes relationships. Sometimes people return when they realize they are no longer dealing with the old version of you. But remember something. If someone comes back, you do not owe them instant access to your heart. You can listen without immediately trusting. You can forgive without forgetting the lesson. You can care without returning to the same situation. You can love someone and still say no. You can miss someone and still choose yourself. That is not cruelty. That is self-respect. God says, love should never require you to abandon yourself. Read that again. You should never have to become smaller to keep someone. You should never have to hide your feelings to make someone comfortable. You should never have to accept disrespect because you are afraid of losing someone. And you should never believe that loneliness is worse than being in a relationship where you feel alone. If your soulmate is truly meant to be part of your future, they will eventually understand this. They will understand that you need more than words. You need consistency. They will understand that trust cannot be demanded. It must be rebuilt. They will understand that forgiveness does not erase consequences. And they will understand that if they want another opportunity, they need to show that they have learned from the past. Maybe last night's profile visit was the first moment they seriously considered that. Maybe they saw something you posted. Maybe it was your picture. Maybe it was your smile. Maybe it was the way you seemed happy. Maybe it was simply the absence of sadness. Whatever they saw, it reminded them that you are not frozen in time. You are moving. And perhaps they are realizing that time is moving too. There was a time when they assumed you would always be there. Now they are not so sure. And uncertainty can wake up feelings that comfort had allowed them to ignore. Maybe they suddenly remembered how much you cared. Maybe they remembered the way you supported them. Maybe they remembered a conversation where you told them something that they did not understand at the time. Now, months later, those words may make sense. That is another strange thing about life. Sometimes advice only becomes meaningful after experience teaches us why it mattered. Your soulmate may be experiencing that right now. Maybe they once thought you were too emotional. Now they realize you were simply honest. Maybe they thought you cared too much. Now they realize they were lucky to be cared for that deeply. Maybe they thought you would always be available. Now they realize availability is not guaranteed. Maybe they thought walking away would be easy. Now they realize leaving you did not remove the connection from their heart. And perhaps this realization hurts. But it can also lead to growth. God says, do not be afraid when people finally recognize your value. You do not need to prove what they are finally beginning to see. You have already done enough. You do not need to post something just to make them jealous. You do not need to upload a picture to get their attention. You do not need to pretend you are with someone else. You do not need to create fake happiness. Live your life for yourself. If they notice, they notice. If they do not, you still win. Because your growth was never supposed to be a performance for another person. Your healing is yours. Your happiness is yours. Your peace is yours. And maybe that is what makes you attractive now. Not because you are trying to impress anyone, but because you have stopped trying to. There is a quiet confidence that comes when you stop chasing validation. You start realizing that you do not need everyone to understand you. You do not need everyone to choose you. You only need to be honest with yourself. And when you reach that place, love becomes different. You stop asking, "How can I make them love me?" and start asking, "Can this person actually love me in the way I need?" That is a powerful shift. Maybe your soulmate noticed that shift last night. Maybe they looked at your profile and thought, "They are not the same anymore." And maybe they are right. You are not the same. The person who cried over them has learned something. The person who waited has learned something. The person who kept checking the phone has learned something. The person who blamed themselves has learned something. You have learned that love cannot be forced. You have learned that communication matters. You have learned that your heart deserves protection. And you have learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is stop chasing an answer. Let time reveal it. Maybe your soulmate is currently thinking about contacting you. Maybe they are typing a message. Maybe they have already written something and deleted it. Maybe they are looking for the right words. Maybe they are waiting for the right moment. But again, do not live your life waiting for that moment. If they want to speak, they will find a way. And when they do, you can decide what happens next. You do not have to decide today. You do not have to predict tomorrow. You only need to take care of today. Today, choose peace. Today, choose yourself. Today, focus on what you can control. Your thoughts. Your actions. Your boundaries. Your future. You cannot control whether someone misses you. You cannot control whether they regret leaving. You cannot control whether they look at your profile. You cannot control whether they return. But you can control whether you abandon yourself while waiting. And you will not do that anymore. God says, "My child, your life is not on pause while another person makes a decision." That sentence is for you. Your life is happening now. Your dreams are happening now. Your opportunities are happening now. Your healing is happening now. Do not postpone your happiness until someone comes back. And if they return, let them meet a person who is already happy. Not someone begging them to create happiness. That difference matters. Maybe this is why last night's event feels so intense. Because your soulmate may have seen something they did not expect. They may have seen your confidence. They may have seen your independence. They may have seen your growth. They may have seen that you are no longer desperate for their approval. And perhaps for the first time, they realized, "I could actually lose them." That realization can be uncomfortable. But sometimes discomfort is what forces someone to become honest. Maybe they are finally asking themselves why they let things fall apart. Maybe they are finally looking at their own behavior. Maybe they are remembering moments when they hurt you. Maybe guilt is entering their heart. And guilt can either become useless regret or meaningful change. If they truly love you, they will choose meaningful change. They will not simply feel bad. They will do better. They will apologize properly. They will take responsibility. They will stop blaming circumstances. They will stop making excuses. They will communicate. And they will give you time. That is what real growth looks like. So if they return, do not focus only on how emotional they sound. Focus on what they are willing to do. Because anyone can say, "I miss you." But not everyone can say, "I understand how I hurt you, and I am willing to change my behavior." Anyone can say, "I want you back." But not everyone can say, "I am ready to build something healthier this time." Anyone can return because they feel lonely. But someone who genuinely values you will return because they are ready to love you properly. That is the difference. And perhaps your soulmate is beginning to understand that. Maybe last night's profile visit was not about curiosity at all. Maybe it was the beginning of self-reflection. Maybe they are realizing that you were not the problem they once believed you were. Maybe they are realizing that their own fear played a role. Maybe they are realizing that pride cost them something valuable. And maybe they are wondering whether the door is still open. But remember, you do not have to hold the door open forever. You can close it. You can lock it. You can choose a different path. And that does not make you a bad person. It means you have learned to protect your peace. If they want another opportunity, they must approach you with respect. They must knock. They must wait. They must show that they have changed. And if you decide to open the door, do it because you genuinely want to, not because you are afraid of losing them again. God says, do not return to a place simply because you are familiar with it. Familiarity is not always destiny. Sometimes we confuse what is familiar with what is right. Someone can feel familiar and still be unhealthy for us. Someone can feel exciting and still be wrong for us. Someone can be our past without being our future. And someone can return without being ready. So use wisdom. Let love and wisdom walk together. Do not let emotion make every decision. Your heart is beautiful. Protect it. Maybe your soulmate is thinking about you tonight. Maybe they are wondering whether you still remember them. The answer may be yes. Maybe you do remember. Maybe part of you still cares. That is okay. Healing does not mean pretending you never loved someone. Healing means remembering without allowing the memory to control your future. You can remember them and still move forward. You can love them and still choose peace. You can wish them well and still refuse to go backward. That is emotional freedom. And perhaps you are closer to that freedom than you realize. Because something has changed. You are no longer asking, "Why did they leave?" You are beginning to ask, "What did I learn?" You are no longer asking, "When will they come back?" You are beginning to ask, "Would their return actually be good for me?" You are no longer asking, "How do I make them choose me?" You are beginning to ask, "Are they capable of choosing me consistently?" Those questions show growth. And maybe your soulmate saw the result of that growth last night. Maybe they saw someone who is no longer easily manipulated by attention. Someone who knows their worth. Someone who has boundaries. Someone who has a future. And that can create a completely different kind of attraction. Not desperate attraction. Respectful attraction. The kind that says, "I need to become better if I want to stand beside this person." Maybe that is the thought they are having. Maybe they realize they cannot come back with the same old behavior. Maybe they realize that the old version of you would have accepted less. But the new version will not. And that is a beautiful thing. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming clear. There is a difference. You can still have a soft heart and strong boundaries. You can still believe in love and refuse to accept disrespect. You can still forgive and protect yourself. You can still hope and remain grounded. That is where you are going. God says, "My child, let your heart remain soft, but let your wisdom become strong." That is your balance. And if your soulmate is truly part of your path, they will respect that balance. They will not ask you to become someone else. They will meet you as you are. They will communicate. They will grow. They will choose. And if they cannot, then perhaps another door will open. Maybe a healthier love. Maybe a better opportunity. Maybe a new chapter you never imagined. Do not limit God to the one person you currently have in mind. Sometimes we pray, "God, bring this person back." But perhaps the better prayer is, "God, bring me what is truly good for me." That prayer leaves room for something greater. Maybe the person you miss is exactly the person meant to return. Maybe not. But either way, you can trust that your life is bigger than your current uncertainty. Your future is bigger than your past. And your heart is stronger than you think. So if you are watching this right now and you have been thinking about your soulmate, take this as a moment to breathe. Do not panic. Do not rush. Do not send a message just because your emotions are high. Let things unfold naturally. If they reach out, you can decide. If they do not, continue your journey. Either way, you are not losing. Because you are becoming stronger. And that is something no one can take away from you. Maybe last night they looked at your profile and found your latest picture. Maybe they saw you smiling. Maybe they noticed you looked peaceful. Maybe they saw that your life was moving. And maybe they realized, they really are okay without me. That realization can be painful for someone who believed they still had control over your emotions. But perhaps it is also healthy. Because love should never be about control. Love should be about choice. You should choose someone. They should choose you. Every day. Not because they are trapped. Not because they are afraid. But because they genuinely want to. That is the love you deserve. And if your soulmate comes back with that kind of intention, you will know. You will not have to decode everything. You will not need to ask yourself whether they care. Their behavior will tell you. Their consistency will tell you. Their effort will tell you. Their respect will tell you. And if they do not return that way, you will also know. That clarity will be your protection. So stop fearing the unknown. Sometimes the unknown is where your greatest growth begins. You have spent enough time trying to predict what someone else will do. Now focus on what you will do. You will keep moving. You will keep growing. You will keep becoming healthier emotionally. You will keep building your life. And you will allow love to meet you naturally. Maybe your soulmate is watching quietly. Maybe they are thinking about you. Maybe they are fighting the urge to contact you. But you do not need to chase their silence. Let them deal with their own emotions. If they want you, they will have to find the courage to speak. And if they speak, listen with wisdom. Do not let one emotional sentence erase everything you have learned. Remember the whole story. Remember the good. Remember the difficult. Remember why you had to grow. And then decide from peace. Not fear. Not loneliness. Not excitement. Peace. God says, what is truly meant for you will never require you to destroy your peace to keep it. That is your reminder. Your soulmate may have checked your profile last night. They may have found something that changed the way they see you. But do not let that become the reason you stop living. Let it simply remind you that people can notice your growth. And perhaps more importantly, let it remind you to notice your own growth. Look at how far you have come. There was a time when you thought you could not survive without their attention. But you did. There was a time when their silence controlled your mood. But now you can choose peace. There was a time when you believed their decision determined your worth. Now you know better. You are still here. And your story is still unfolding. Maybe the next chapter includes them. Maybe it does not. But the next chapter definitely includes you. And this time, you are not abandoning yourself. You are not begging. You are not chasing. You are not forcing. You are walking. Walking with faith. Walking with wisdom. Walking with self-respect. Walking with hope. And if someone wants to walk beside you, they must be willing to match your pace. They cannot ask you to go backward. They cannot ask you to return to confusion. They cannot ask you to become the old version of yourself. They must meet the person you are now. And perhaps that is what your soulmate finally realized last night. You changed. You grew. You became stronger. You became harder to lose because you became harder to break. And maybe that changed everything. Maybe they closed your profile and stayed silent. Maybe they stared at your name. Maybe they thought about sending a message. Maybe they felt something they could not explain. But whatever they do next is their choice. Your choice is simpler. Choose yourself. Choose your peace. Choose your future. Choose the kind of love that chooses you back. And trust that you do not have to force the story. The right chapter will reveal itself. The right conversation will happen when both people are ready. The right person will show consistency. And the right relationship will not constantly make you question your value. So tonight, before you sleep, release the need to know everything. You do not need to know exactly what they saw. You do not need to know exactly what they thought. You do not need to know whether they miss you. You do not need to know whether they will message. You only need to know this. You are worthy. You are growing. You are healing. And your future is still open. God says, my child, stop looking backward with fear. Look forward with faith. I have not finished writing your story. Maybe the person you love will return. Maybe they will finally speak. Maybe they will apologize. Maybe they will ask for another chance. If that happens, take your time. Do not rush your heart. Let actions speak. Let time reveal. Let consistency prove. And if they do not return, do not believe that your love was wasted. Nothing you genuinely learn from love is wasted. You learned what you need. You learned what you deserve. You learned what you will never accept again. You learned how strong your heart can be. And one day, you may look back and realize that the heartbreak was not the end of your love story. It was the beginning of your self-respect story. Maybe your soulmate secretly checked your profile last night. Maybe they found you changed. Maybe they found you stronger. Maybe they found you happier. Maybe they found someone they thought they had lost. But the greatest discovery may have been yours. You discovered that you can survive without being chosen by someone else. You discovered that you can love without losing yourself. You discovered that you can forgive without returning. You discovered that you can hope without waiting. And you discovered that your life does not stop because someone walks away. That is your power. That is your growth. That is your new beginning. So let them look. Let them wonder. Let them remember. Let them decide what they want. You do not need to chase. You do not need to prove. You do not need to manipulate. Just continue being the person you are becoming. And if they return, let them return correctly. Let them come with honesty. Let them come with respect. Let them come with accountability. Let them come with consistency. Let them come ready to build, not just ready to remember. Because memories are beautiful. But a future requires effort. And you deserve someone willing to make that effort. God says, "My child, do not settle for someone who only remembers your value when they fear losing you. Choose the person who values you even when they feel secure." That is the kind of love that lasts. That is the kind of connection worth protecting. And perhaps, after everything that happened, your soulmate is finally beginning to understand that. Maybe they thought losing you would be temporary. Maybe they thought you would always return. Maybe they thought time would erase everything. But now they are looking at your profile and realizing that time did something else. It changed you. It changed them. And perhaps it changed the meaning of your connection. What happens next belongs to the future. You do not need to force it. You do not need to fear it. Just be ready to recognize truth when it arrives. If they come with confusion, protect your peace. If they come with manipulation, step back. If they come with empty promises, wait for actions. But if they come with honesty, accountability, consistency, and genuine effort, then you can decide whether the door deserves to open. The choice is yours. Not theirs. Yours. Because you are no longer the person who waits for someone else to decide your worth. You know your worth now. And perhaps that is exactly what they saw last night. They did not just see your profile. They saw the evidence of your growth. They saw someone who had survived. Someone who had changed. Someone who was still capable of love but no longer willing to beg for it. And maybe that changed everything. So breathe. Let your heart rest. Do not chase tonight. Do not overthink tonight. Do not create 1,000 stories from one possibility. Simply trust yourself. Trust your growth. Trust your wisdom. And trust that whatever happens next, you will be able to handle it. Because you have already handled the hardest part. You learned how to continue without certainty. You learned how to smile while healing. You learned how to walk away when something hurt too much. You learned how to love yourself. And that is something no profile visit can take away. Maybe your soulmate is thinking about you tonight. Maybe they are wondering whether they should finally reach out. Maybe they are realizing that they still have feelings. Maybe they are remembering the person they once had. Maybe they are regretting the way they handled things. But let them sit with those feelings. Let them understand themselves. Let them decide. You have your own life to live. And perhaps the greatest surprise of all will come when you stop waiting for it. Because sometimes, when you finally release the outcome, life has room to surprise you. Maybe the message will come. Maybe the apology will come. Maybe the reunion will come. Maybe a completely new beginning will come. You do not know. And you do not need to know. The future does not have to be revealed all at once. Take one day at a time. One step at a time. One breath at a time. God says, "My child, what you cannot see today may make sense tomorrow." Do not judge the whole story from one difficult chapter. So keep going. Keep believing. Keep growing. And remember, you are not waiting to be chosen. You are choosing to. You are not waiting for someone to save you. You are building yourself. You are not waiting for someone to complete you. You are becoming whole. And when love comes, it should meet you there. Maybe your soulmate checked your profile last night. Maybe what they found changed everything. But from this moment forward, let what you found inside yourself change everything too. You found strength. You found wisdom. You found patience. You found self-respect. And perhaps you found something even more important. Peace. So if they return, welcome the conversation, not automatically the relationship. Let them speak. Let them explain. Let them show you. And then decide. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to protect your heart. You are allowed to say yes. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to choose what feels healthy for you. And whatever decision you make it from strength. Not fear. Because your future is not dependent on one person. Your life is bigger. Your purpose is bigger. Your possibilities are bigger. And your story is still being written. So tonight, sleep peacefully. Let the unanswered questions rest. If your soulmate is thinking about you, let them. If they are missing you, let them. If they are considering reaching out, let them find their courage. You do not need to chase them toward the door. If they truly want to enter your life again, they will knock. And when they knock, you will be strong enough to decide whether to open it. That is the new you. That is the person they may have seen last night. Not the person who was waiting. Not the person who was desperate. Not the person who needed their approval. But the person who finally understood. I can love you without losing myself. And perhaps that is what changed everything. Not the profile. Not the picture. Not the post. Not the silence. But you. You changed. And sometimes, when one person changes, an entire relationship has to change with them. So keep becoming. Keep healing. Keep walking. Keep your heart open, but keep your standard strong. And remember the words. God says, what is truly for you will bring clarity, not constant confusion, peace, not constant fear, and love, not a continuous battle for attention. If your soulmate is truly meant to walk beside you, let them prove it. Until then, walk forward. Your story is not over. Your heart is not finished. Your future is not decided by yesterday. And somewhere ahead, there is a chapter you have not read yet. Maybe your soulmate is in that chapter. Maybe someone new is. Maybe the greatest relationship waiting for you is the one you are building with yourself. Whatever comes, you will be ready. Because you are no longer afraid of being alone. You are afraid of losing yourself. And that is a completely different kind of strength. So let last night remain last night. Let the profile visit remain a mystery unless they choose to reveal the truth. You do not need to chase the answer. Let reality speak. Let action speak. Let time speak. And let your peace speak the loudest. Because the person who is truly meant for you will not only look at your profile from a distance. They will eventually have the courage to step closer. They will communicate. They will show up. They will choose. And they will understand that your heart deserves something real. Until that happens, keep living. Keep smiling. Keep growing. Keep praying. Keep becoming the person you were created to be. And if tonight someone secretly opens your profile again, let them see exactly what they saw last night. Someone who has changed. Someone who has healed. Someone who knows their worth. Someone who still believes in love. But someone who will never again sacrifice their peace just to keep someone close. That is your new beginning. That is your strength. And perhaps, without even realizing it, that is the very thing that finally made your soulmate stop scrolling. Look at your picture. Remember everything. And ask themselves the one question they had been avoiding for far too long. Did I let go of someone I was never supposed to lose? Only time will reveal what they do with that question. But you? You already know what to do. Keep walking. Keep growing. Keep choosing yourself. And let God handle the parts of the story you cannot control. Because sometimes the greatest change begins quietly. With one person opening a profile. Remembering a love. Feeling something they thought was gone. And realizing that the person they once took for granted is no longer waiting for them. And that realization can change everything.